Hello all, welcome to the JavaScript for Pentesters course at Pentester Academy. In this video, we will look at the HTML DOM and how to modify it with JavaScript. So what is the DOM really? Now DOM, or Document Object Model as it is called, is an application programming interface for modifying HTML and XML. Now putting it in very simple terms, one can visualize the DOM as a hierarchical tree in which, depending on the structure of the HTML in question, the different elements are organized. Now, what is interesting from us from a security perspective is, let's say once we find an XSS vulnerability on a given page, how do we find and modify certain elements of interest to us? So let me give you an example. Here is my barebone template page, and let me first define an element. Let's say an h1 tag with an ID as title, or rather welcome to JavaScript for Pentesters. Now inside JavaScript, if we want to find this specific element, then we can go ahead and use the get element by ID call. So here is what we're going to do. So we go in, and now let's actually use document with which we refer to the current document and do a get element by ID, and the ID in here is title. Now let's assign this to a variable so that we can play with that variable. Of course, there's no real need. Once you're proficient with JavaScript, you could probably write everything down in one single line, but we leave that for later. So let's call this var1, and now let's manipulate this. Now to manipulate the HTML which is enclosed within that element, we use var1.inner HTML. And let's call this XSS for Pentesters, right? So here is what we are doing. We have an h1 tag with the ID title. We are going to use document.getElementById title, and then change the inner HTML to XSS for Pentesters. So let me go in here and let's open this up, and there you go, right? As you can clearly notice, we've modified it. Now in case you wanted to look at slightly slower motion, just before this we can insert an alert. This is a break, right? And if we restart the page, you would notice that welcome to JS for Pentesters is still there, and as soon as we are going to click OK on this is a break, our JavaScript would now modify this to XSS for Pentesters. Now in examples which we will take up later, this can come in exceedingly handy when you want to modify things on the page once you've found an XSS vulnerability. And now you're pretty much looking at how powerful this can be. Now, apart from using getElement by ID, there is also another interesting one, which is getElements by tag name. There's another for class as well, but we'll look at tags for the time being. Now, if you notice, this is getElements because what it returns back is really a collection. So let's go in there and let me define two h2 tags. This is h2. This is the first tag. Let's close the h2 tag. And then let's have another h2 tag which says this is the second tag. Again, let's close it. We remove this alert box from in here. Now, in order to go ahead and get the entire collection of h2 tags, here is what we can do. Let's say var, and let's call this h2 tags equals document. Now in this case, we would do a get elements, note the plural, by tag name. So we're going to do a get elements by tag name, and the tag name is h2. Now this is an HTML collection, and if you want to know the length, we can alert it using h2 tags dot length. So this will tell us the length of this collection, or rather the number of unique elements in there, which you would expect to be 2. So let's go back in here, refresh this page, and as you can clearly see, we basically get 2. Now, here is what we can do. You could go ahead, reference h2 tags, refer to the second element with a 1 dot inner HTML, and change this to this is the third tag, even though it isn't. And now when we go back in here, do a quick refresh, 2 is here, and if you notice, the inner HTML changed this to this is the third tag. Now you can clearly see how with JavaScript we can pretty much control smaller details of the HTML being rendered on the page. Now it is also possible to iterate through these tags. For example, I could do a quick counter for I is equal 0, I less than h2 tags dot length, I plus plus, and then I could just alert the inner HTML h2 tags I, so that we get the specific position through which we are iterating, and do an inner HTML. There we go. So here goes. Have the first alert for the length. This is the first tag is what get represented, and then this is the third tag is what we get after that. So here are simple examples by which we can find elements by ID or tag names, iterate through them, change their value, and if you go through the specifications, you can even change smaller attributes and whatnot, right? Which I leave to you as an exercise. Now this will come in very handy when we want to access a specific element on the page and modify it, as we will see in later examples. So that's all I had in mind for this video. If you're enjoying your time here at Pentester Academy, then please do recommend us to your friends and colleagues in the InfoSec community. Thank you.